Okay, then we come with next speaker. He's a gentleman. Oh, yeah, peace, Davis. Yeah. Um, for today's seminar, we have slightly in balance. We have more women than slightly more women than men. Okay, so you are very important for us. And in fact, David Bookhart is the senior manager and also head of the sustainability unit, and also the adjunct assistant professor in the division of environmental and sustainability in the Hong Kong UST. He joined Hong Kong UST in 2013, that means seven years ago, to develop the university first comprehensive sustainability master plan, named the Hong Kong UST 2020 Sustainability Challenges. Yeah, he now serves as the steward of the plan implementation and has an academic appointment in the division of environment and sustainability. Do you have any addition?
Any addition? No, I think that's enough.
Okay, then your show time. Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. Then you will have a Q&A session later.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Well, first of all, my son's name is Felix, so I'm already very happy to be here, and so I appreciate that. I'm also very excited to talk about this project, as Felix just mentioned. Oh, sorry, a little closer. Yeah, as Felix just mentioned, we are just coming to the end of our first comprehensive sustainability strategic plan. It was called the 2020 Challenge. Now it's 2020, so we are getting to our goals and our targets and trying to see how well we did compared to what we thought we could do. So this is quite important for us right now, and also that we are developing our next 6-year strategic plan. So all of these issues are quite on my mind. So let me take you a little bit through this. My background is that I've been at HKUST for 7 years, almost exactly 7 years. I came in August of 2013, and I spent the previous 8 years starting a sustainability office at the Johns Hopkins University in the United States. So this is my second go at building and developing a new office. And of course, throughout the whole time, everything is always a little bit different. But what I'm also finding is that, building an office, looking at strategic planning in the United States versus here, many things are different, but there's a lot that's almost exactly the same. The process that you go through, the kinds of conversations that you need to have are quite similar. So I thought what I'd do today is let me just take you through this process, and I'll do it through asking essentially 4 questions. So let's just start about what does it look like to start to really become a fully embedded, sustainability focused organization. There we go. So the first question that you have to start with is, what do we want? And, so this is a quotation I love. In order to achieve a sustainable future, first we must imagine it. And if you don't have that imagination about what you want, where you want to go, then you're really drifting. So start out with what we want, and not just what we want in terms of, we want to be a sustainable organization. Well, everybody wants to do that, but think about it more specifically about what the organization is. You want to be responsive to your customers, or you want to be able to be relevant. You want to have a good reputation. All of those things are the kinds of questions that go in. For us, we're a university, so we start to think about it a little bit more in terms of our research and our ability to provide some input for the future. So let me just show you a very quick video. I think the audio might not work, but it actually doesn't need it. So this is how we started off with this idea of what we would like to be for the next 6 years. So we started to think about our sustainable campus and how does it really impact looking at the smart cities and the smart technology futures, and how can we combine them together. So essentially, the video is kind of showing all the different areas from the campus where we can allow the smart technologies to influence our ability to become much more sustainable as we go forward. And our way of thinking is that sustainability by itself is a great vision. It's a goal. It's something that we should all aspire to. And smart is also a great goal, but smart without the anchor of sustainability can go awry, and sustainability without the backing of smart may not be able to meet its objective. So we felt like that both of those together were exactly what we needed. So this is one of our top priorities now. It's an initiative called the Sustainable Smart Campus as a living laboratory. So the living laboratory is also something that we felt was very important for us. We want to be able to test out new technologies and approaches. And on our university campus, we can do that. So for example, if you have a robot and you'd like to try it out, you can do it on a college campus. You may not be able to do it New World Development because people might complain but at a university that could become that could be typical. So starting with this is what we want. We want to become the cutting edge university. We want to live up to our name and be the science and technology go-to center for Hong Kong and for the Greater Bay Area. And we want to be the sustainable leader in doing so. So then that leads to question number 2, which is what's the role of a responsible organization in building a better future for everyone? And this question may be a little bit less intuitive because many people might say my role or my organization doesn't have a responsibility to build a better future. But I would argue that you do. We all do. All of our organizations are benefiting from the social compact of being a part of this great city with a terrific road network and an educational network. You can hire people, good quality employees that have been educated at a low price or a subsidized price by this government. So we all have a responsibility to give back, and part of that giving back is to look at our sustainability footprint and try to create a future and use our organizations to create that kinds of a vision for the future. So I always used to ask students that I work with about environmentalism and sustainability, and I always thought that this was a great way to think about the future, which is that as an environmentalist 20 years ago, I felt like I spent all of my time really trying to fix problems. And I think that what I've learned since then as a sustainability expert now is that sustainability is different than environmentalism because we're really trying to prevent those kinds of problems from happening in the first place. And that's where I think we come as the university. So I've just highlighted a couple of things from our university sustainability mission. All of this is important for us, but I highlighted the zero carbon, zero waste, net positive environmental impact. That's, I think, what we are trying to give back. The other pieces of our sustainability mission are about how we operate our campus and how we try to educate our students. But there is also this expectation that organizations do need to be positive contributors to our society, and this is how we feel like we can work towards this goal of completely reducing our environmental burden on society. Okay, so that takes us to question number 3, and question number 3 is this: how do we evaluate our actions against the sustainability benchmark? So this is something I'd like to talk a little bit about because I was asked to review some ESG reports a year ago. And one thing I noticed, I hadn't done this before, but I think I read through 20 or 25 ESG reports, and I really recognized they were all very, very different. Some of them had some information, some had others, some were data driven, some were very picture driven. They all had, beautiful graphics. But I think that one thing I recognized was that when you look at an ESG report for a corporation or an organization, there's not always the emphasis on evaluating what you're doing against your peers. So you may look at an ESG report which has 50 or 60 pages of beautiful pictures of people, hugging and being happy and doing great things within their organization, but it doesn't say really what is your actual performance. In other words, what is it that you're doing? And I always get caught up on this question because quite often we talk about the amount that we have reduced, but we don't talk about the amount that's left. So I remember years ago, Starbucks had a campaign where they talked about their new cups. Their new cups now have 10% recycled content. And with that 10% recycled content, they are now eliminating the cutting down of over 100,000 trees. And you think, well, that's really wonderful. But for me, as a sustainability guy, I look at that 10%, and the way I read it is 90% of the cup is still not recyclable. And you could do the math. So if you could save 100,000 trees by 10%, it must be 900,000 trees that you're still cutting down. So we have to really evaluate ourselves in a very honest way. And that's difficult because evaluating ourselves is not always pretty and it's not always flattering. And one of the things that we're always expected to do is to talk as well as we can about our organizations. When I first came to HKUST, I'll tell you a little secret, which was that I looked on the wall and it was filled with environmental excellence awards. And I thought, well, that's great. We must be doing an incredibly good job. But when I looked into the data, I kept asking questions like, where does our waste go? Where is there recycling? How much recycling do we have? And when I finally was able to piece together all the data, I recognized, unfortunately, that our recycling rate was 1.6%. That means that 98.4% of our waste was going, but we still had all of these environmental excellence awards. It's easy to get an award. I looked at the data and it'd say things like glass, 168. Great, 168 what? Tons? 168 kilograms? No, 168 bottles. That's one bottle every 2 days to be recycling. So the point is that we have to be honest about our benchmarking and really look very carefully. I just have this. This is comparing our university to some of the other benchmarks in the United States, but we do the same thing in Hong Kong as well. And you recognize that sometimes we're better, sometimes we're worse, but it gives you something to really focus on if you really want to be clear about your performance. This is what we've been able to do in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. You could see that we've been growing at the same time that we have reduced our emissions. If you look from 2010 to 2018, it doesn't look like very much. It looks like we went up and went down and we're about the same place. And that's a real number, but you can also see that per capita and per GFA, we've also done quite well. But those things don't mean anything until you really start to embrace the data and take a look at it as clearly as you possibly can. And if you look at the data, you also have to look at your actions as well. A lot of the benchmarking that we do is not just against our other peers and other universities, but it's also about what kinds of things that we do in terms of engagement and in education and workshops. The picture on the top was a project where students and faculty members wanted to test out painting a stairwell to see if it would change behaviors, and they added some cameras so that they could test if people are actually using the stairs more, and we could turn it into a behavior change. The picture on the bottom is a sustainability education workshop where we really were engaging other faculty from all other universities. But those things are ones that have to be built into your strategic vision. And that brings us to question 4, probably the most important question, which is how do we move towards embedding sustainability? So I think that we'll find that almost all businesses around the world will talk about sustainability in one level or another. And quite often what you might find is there's, at the worst, a lot of greenwashing. At the best, you might find companies that are trying as hard as they can and are struggling. And I think if we're all honest with each other, we all struggle just a bit, but that's okay. If sustainability was easy, we would have done it years ago. It's not going to be easy. But the question, though, is how do we get over a you know, being satisfied with some demonstration projects or being satisfied with a couple of highly visible projects, but recognizing that the rest of the organization is still lagging behind. And so here are a couple of success stories that we had seen at our universities, and I wanted to kind of compare that to what it means for a challenge, because if I had left this on the left-hand side, that sustainability we've had some great demonstration efforts, very high visibility. Our campus community is quite excited. Empowerment of our people, you could see students and faculty are all interested, and we can look at our performance metrics. If you stop right there, that's a picture of a great success of a sustainability program. But you can't stop there, because you really do have to look at, in terms of the demonstration efforts, are they really embedded? In other words, will they continue on after you move on to something else? Or does it feel like you have the same old program and then you've added on some of these demonstration efforts? High visibility is important, but is it also high impact? So I could tell you, I remember uh, a conversation I had with a student many years ago. He said we should put a wind turbine right in the middle of the campus. It would demonstrate that we're a leader in sustainability. And I said, but you know that the wind doesn't always blow in our region. And wouldn't it look awkward if we had a big wind turbine that wasn't turning? And he said, well, but we could put a battery and a motor to make it turn when the wind's not blowing. Right? So great idea, but that's a low impact. That's a demonstration. That's not real. Excitement of the campus community. This is something that's very important to me, because we want people to be excited about what we do, but we also have to be very, very real that we are getting stuff done. It's easy to it's actually easy to create some of these demonstration projects. But if you're giving the sense that more is getting done than reality, I go back to my earlier story about these environmental performance awards. Well, people would see those awards and they'd say, well, you're doing everything you have to do. I don't have to do anything. And of course, that's not true. We all have to do quite a bit more. In the next piece, the empowerment of our people, that may be true, but also, is it all of our people, or is it a narrow slice of self-selected and motivated? We have green teams, we have students, and we have faculty, and we have staff who are very interested in these issues. But I recognize it's not all of our students, it's not all of our faculty. So how do we really get to the other people? In other words, I've always asked my staff, I said, you know, the sustainability for many people is like, you know, is like it's like Social Security reform. We all know it's very important, but it's just, you know, it's just not my thing. And we have to accept the fact that for some people, they might know that sustainability is interesting or important, but it's just not their thing. They're just more interested in other stuff. So how do we engage them? How do we talk about these issues in ways that are relevant to them? And then finally, performance, going beyond the low-hanging fruit. We've all have great successes at our universities and at our businesses here in Hong Kong, looking at the amount of energy that we've saved, the amount of recycling that we've saved. And the deep question as you look into strategic planning is, are we capturing the low-hanging fruit, or are we actually going one step further and really trying to look at the harder, you know, grab that fruit that's a little bit higher up in the tree and try to get to that as well. So if you look at the university, what we did was we took a look at what we do. We have research and discovery, we have education, obviously, campus operations, that's what keeps everything going, and then we have collaborative impact. And out of all those four, in order to create a strategic plan, you have to have elements that are important to each one of those. And so those were the four pillars of our strategic plan. For us, we started to look at how they start to fit together. And from a sustainability point of view, how can we actually create the linkages in a broader systems approach that can take campus operations, you know, our great campus and our buildings, and build that into collaborative impact? How do we take the research and discovery and be able to use our campus operations to test out new ideas? And how do we use all of those as part of our educational component? So that's how we ended up with our first strategic plan, the HKUST 2020 challenge. We had some very aggressive energy and waste and recycling and greenhouse gas goals. It looks like we're going to meet all of our targets, but the question now is to figure out how much of our reductions this year were from COVID and how much are real. What we really want to know is, we know we're going to meet the target, but did we earn the target? And we need to be able to look at that. But we feel like we've made some good goals. So going forward, we'll be looking at the next series of targets. So this is now our 2030 pathway. And so again, we'll go through the entire process of planning, background research, feedback groups. You need to get everyone involved and get their experiences, measure the outcomes, share with the community. And so we'll have the same four, but we'll add we have a new campus in Guangzhou, and we want to bring that to them as well. But the performance, progress and performance will expand. So in the 2020 challenge, it was energy, greenhouse gas, and waste. And we'll be adding in water and landscape, biodiversity, and green labs. And food, I'm sorry, that's another one as well. So we're trying to continue to push our game and up the challenge in terms of what we have to work towards. All right, it was right on time. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Darius.
All right.
Please, yeah, we have some question for you. Please feel free to ask question on the floor or on the internet. My question for you is, first is, you mentioned that first we must imagine it.
Yes.
I believe you imagine is zero carbon, zero waste. Then do you satisfy with your current status? How close it meet your target?
Well, we're working towards it, but you can see, well, let me take waste first, because if you envision zero waste, you have to think about what would it take to get there. And so when you think about what does it take to get there, you work your way backwards and you say, if we were to have zero waste, then we can't have so much packaging. If we can't have so much packaging, then we can't be buying from certain retailers. And if the retailers can't be selling to us, then that's going to impact the wholesalers, and that will impact the designers. You start to work your way all the way back through the value chain, and you realize that zero waste is not just a behavior on our part. It's really working all the way back to the way a product is designed. You know, my favorite example is a pizza box, because what our recyclers will always tell us is that if you have a cardboard box, which is recyclable,
Yes.
but if you put pizza in it and the cheese gets onto the box, then the recyclers don't want it. So why do we have a system where the restaurants are using a perfectly recyclable material, and by using it the way they want to, they're immediately making it not recyclable? All right, that's a flaw in the system. We need to find some way to eliminate those flaws. So thinking, like, envisioning what a sustainable future means is not just saying, okay, we're taking this, how do we reduce it? It's really, what does it look like? What would it look like if we were using a lot less energy? Does that mean that we would be all very hot and uncomfortable with no air conditioning? Or does it mean that we would have created buildings that were able to keep us comfortable in a different way? And if it's a different way, then what might that look like?
Yeah, I will need to go into very details.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that simple. You mentioned about that responsible organization should to have the building the future for everyone. Yeah, but how about company need to making profit for shareholder?
They do,
Is it
but
conflict?
no, it's not a conflict. And I'll tell you why. Because the shareholders also are part of our society, right? So a company has the ability to make a profit because they are existing in a community that provides tremendous service to them for free, right? We provide a great transportation network. We provide a great educational system. We provide the ability for that company to hire very high quality workers so that they can make a profit. And all of that comes to them with very little effort on their part. And so the only thing we're asking them is to, because you're a part of this system, don't take everything from what society is giving you and then take your profits and keep them, but recognize that you are part of that whole system. You're the reason why we can do good things in Hong Kong, and we're all part of this broader system. So we do have that obligation.
Okay. Over this 7 years of your hard working, do you find that the student, they change their behavior to support your environmental initiative?
I do, yeah. I think that when I first, actually, I'll even go back even further. When I first started at the university, my first university 15 years ago, there was always a very small activist, very dedicated group of students who were very interested in the environment. And then there was everyone else.
Oh, okay.
And now what I find is that everyone else, their attention to this has really grown. And when they come to the university, they have higher expectations. You know, so 10 years ago, if we were to build a new building, and if we were to make it a beam gold building, people would be very impressed. Today, if we build that same building and make it beam gold, people would say, so what? Of course. I expect you to build a beam gold. Why don't you make it a platinum? So I think that the expectations have gone up. I think that people recognize that it would be very unusual not to be focusing on sustainability.
Yeah. Okay. My last standard question. To lead business change from business as usual to unusual, I suppose, would you please share some of your major challenges and how to deal with these kind of challenges?
From business usual to unusual.
Yeah, from business usual to unusual.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's a great question. I think that the way I would answer it for the university is that business unusual means being more aggressive about your goals.
Okay.
So I think that universities are fairly conservative. They're fairly traditional. You could basically teach the same class the same way for 25 years.
Yeah.
And frankly, some people still do that. But I think that, you know, if anything, this COVID-19 crisis has also really emphasized the idea that we can change very fast.
Yeah.
We went completely to online teaching within just a couple of weeks. Every single class, 10,000 students, all, and 400 faculty members, everything was changed. All the syllabi were changed. All the teaching methods were changed, all within a couple of weeks. And we got to the end of the semester and did quite well. And I think the lesson is that you can do things fast, and and usual means sticking with what's comfortable, and unusual is taking a little bit more of a chance for something that's not.
Okay, thank you, Davis. Yeah, thank you for your time and sharing.
All right, thank you.
We look forward to see your better result.
Okay, good. I look forward to bringing it to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
In next sharing. Thank you.